Forgot to hit a button.
Laughing so loud you can hear us for miles. We got roots, we got jokes, we got pride in our lives. Running wild on the Wolfpack Farmland. Running wild on the Wolfpack Farmland.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. I forgot to hit a button, so if that song kind of come up halfway through it, that'd be why. There is a link in the chat. We're awaiting to see if our special guest can get logged in through his phone. He doesn't want to do it on his computer for some reason, so we'll see if it'll happen or not. This is Thursday Thoughts, and it is time for a twisted tea. And I do believe it worked. So, everybody, welcome Delta Whiskey 25. David, how is things going today?
Today went pretty well, actually. The area that I've been unloading at is finally packed out. After all this time and the rain that we had, we finally got it packed out.
And this was due because we finally got some rain, right?
Yep.
That's always a good thing. You did send me a message. You had a coworker, and I don't know how long this coworker had. Was he still working there?
Yeah, he was our project manager. And the shop that he went to was in Herndon. And I got a little bit more information out of the guys. Tim was, what did he say? 68 years old, I believe. And he was working with the county since who knows when.
Since the county's inception?
Yeah. And he was also a fighter. And the funeral is tomorrow at 10:30. So I'm going to assume that there's going to be a lot of people there.
Probably half of Herndon would be my guess.
Half of Herndon, the fire department.
Oh, definitely. The one thing about SOCOs is if it is a SOCO, a Waterman, and there's one other name in Rawlins County, and I do not remember what it is. Some way, shape, or form, there's a chance we're related to them. However, there are a few SOCOs that were not. There's a gal in Oberlin named Kimberly. I do know her parents. I don't think we're related to them. He farms just west of Herndon. Oh, just a little piece there, and then back to the north. He's got a little couple of fields back in there. I think his name was Ron, maybe. I don't think we're related to those guys. They lived over there where the old Dollar General was in Oberlin. And you kind of go catty corner to the northwest. There's a blue house where all the irises are. They're always fenced in. I think it's about a block to the west, right across the street. I believe that's where Ron and his wife lived. I think. But so yeah, we wanted to kind of touch base and losing a coworker is kind of a tough thing for sure. But just know that everybody in Rawlins County is within our thoughts and prayers for sure. Um, a lot of people are gonna watch this, so it doesn't look like there's a lot on. I kind of started a little bit late, but they'll get notifications and people will start filing in hopefully. And I didn't put my Snapchat alert out today, so JD was out working on planting his trees a little while ago, so he might actually be eating some food. Uh, Corey is still out blading since we got some rain, and I think he has a prior engagement tomorrow morning, so he's still out doing some blading work. Um, Grandma's watching, looks like Charlie's Angels. So every once in a while, I'll see something that catches my eye. So I'm in the kitchen. So if you see me doing that, that's what I'm doing. But so just so everybody knows that watches this later on, this is my son David. He has his channel at Delta Whiskey 25, and he is a heavy equipment operator for Rawlins County up in Northwest Kansas, who has a possibility to go on another adventure, it seems. So you have always had an interest in law enforcement. Okay, David, you can't play video games and
I'm not.
oh, okay. I was like, you can't play video games and talk to me. You'll get distracted. You've always had kind of an interest in law enforcement. Um, you did some shadowing. We used to call it consortium when I was in high school. So, like the first hour or the last hour, or whatever the case was, you used to always run around with the sheriff's department, right? When you were a senior,
Yeah, we called it a work study.
for sure. And that's kind of what led you to the Marine Corps, right? In a roundabout way. I mean, what better way to become a cop than be a veteran and a Marine?
That was way before the work study.
The work study just kind of enhanced it, right?
Yeah.
I'm waiting to see if
What was the sheriff's name? Ken?
Ken Batsky.
Yeah. He was the sheriff, and then Brad Messersmith was the undersheriff, and
Yeah.
then one of the deputies was David Obermeyer, which was a veteran.
Yes.
At all.
Let me go help Grandma. You keep talking. I'm gonna go help Grandma a minute.
Oh, let's see. Oh, at the time,
9/11, I think, helped out a little bit on your decision.
do what?
9/11. That kind of enhanced your decision making, not as in like it just happened and you decided, but just hearing about the history of that day always enhances anybody who wants to serve.
I wouldn't say that I'm a big history nut, but military history, yes. And that's a 16th of the reason why I joined. One was because there was family heritage in it. Of course, the American history of us being in all the world wars that has happened or is going to happen. What else?
Hang on a second. I'll give you another answer. So, at one point in time, and you mentioned the family heritage thing, Grandpa Waterman was in the Air Force. Your
Mhm.
grandpa, not mine. My grandpa Waterman was in the Army. Um, Uncle Elmer was in the Air Force. Uncle Ed was in the Air Force. That is the only 4 people that I know of. Now, I don't know if anybody else was in the military before then, but I wasn't able to go um, for various reasons, health being the number one reason. So, why did you decide you wanted to do? Now, this is before you made your decision on which branch. Why did you decide to go to the military?
One, I thought I wasn't smart enough to do college, and I didn't want to sit behind a desk again for 4 years of my life. That's one reason. Two, how can I properly word this? Without breaking the community guidelines of YouTube, um,
Don't strain yourself.
I wanted to, for lack of a better word, eliminate the enemy. Uh, During that, oh hey Wendy,
Wendy B,
yep,
meet Delta Whiskey again. So I do remember something about you were on a crusade. You wanted to personally end ISIS.
I
I remember that
remember
statement several times. I will end ISIS all by myself.
that. Yeah.
And you talked about becoming a paramedic jumper through the Air Force.
Yep.
And we went to the races in Topeka.
No, we went to the races in Kansas City.
Well, okay, yeah, same difference. It's almost the same place now. Um, and we talked to an Army recruiter, and I believe he had a 50 cal there, right? Because I do still have a picture of this somewhere of you holding this 50 cal. And he asked you what you wanted to do. And you said
Uh-huh.
you wanted to be a paramedic jumper in the Air Force.
Uh-huh.
And his words were something along the line of, why would you want to do that for those weenies? Because we clear the way before they come in. I think
He
there was a few
also,
other different words in there, but we can't
oh
say
yeah.
that.
He also said that those guys would wait until the LZ or landing zone is clear
Yep.
for up to 2 hours,
Yep.
which would basically leave us, you know, in a tight
Which
situation.
who knows how much truth holds with that. But I believe your next reaction, if I remember right, was you spun around, you handed that guy the 50 cal back, and you walked off. I don't think you said another word to that fella. And then you switched to the Marine Corps.
I didn't even say okay.
No, you didn't say
I
anything.
just,
You just like handed the gun and off you went. We went to the races.
and then I listened to, oddly enough, Danica Patrick's, um, whatever you call it, when she was talking to her crew and everything like that.
Pit crew.
Yeah, it basically took me a couple months before deciding to go into the Marine Corps.
And I do remember something about you had a lot of high expectations, a lot of high goals when you wanted to go to the Marine Corps. There was something about getting your eyes fixed. You wanted to be a sniper. And then there was something about recon, and then something about this elite group called MARSOC, and all those things.
Mhm.
And somewhere along the line, you made it through boot camp and met one of those recon guys, right? Long story
No,
short, you quickly changed.
well, yeah, and there's a lot of things that changed, and pretty fast. Um, I remember during high school, it was probably during the summertime that I put on a t-shirt, a very thin windbreaker jacket, pants, and steel-toe boots. And I ran from the house that we lived in up to the highway, um, on the west side of Crossroads, down that road by the gateway. And I ran all the way down to where Commercial Street and 83, I believe, meets. And then I ran back to the house. Uh, there was that part. And my mind frame was basically I'm training to become a sniper. And then I found out that, hey, you kind of need LASIK surgery or um, vision without corrective lenses or anything like that. Um,
I remember you running when it was 100 degrees out and insulated coveralls too. So, running around in that outfit you just described was nothing out of the ordinary of what you were doing back then.
no.
I mean, and it all, David, where we're going with all of this is a little bit of history of how you became who you are today and where you're at today. Something about your wrestling coach said you were one of the toughest kids,
Hmm.
and he wished that all of the wrestlers were half as mentally tough as you were. We'll talk about the McCook match. You spent 30 seconds like this. And for those of you that don't know, that's a near fall and you're about pinning out of the match. And then you came back and pinned the kid in the next period. Um, it translates. We were talking about this the other day about Kel being put in some people call it the split, or we call it the banana split, for all a good portion of the first period and come back and beat that kid. That mental toughness is what a lot of wrestlers get, and that's what you need to get through any kind of boot camp and any kind of service, right?
Well, not just boot camp, but specifically, yes. When I went in, I could have been out of shape and still had that mentality of basically how I was during wrestling and still would have made it through fine. Uh, and it's vice versa. I could have had a bad mentality and the fittest person on earth and still would have, wouldn't have made it through. But
And you made it. You completed your 4 years. Um, you ended up going to Norway for, was it a 3 month deal?
no, that was a month, I believe.
And that was right before Ukraine started, right? Kind of know where I'm going with this, don't you?
Yeah.
And so tell our listeners, because we have 6 people on tonight as of right now, and there will be other ones that they may be watching that Longhorn. Well, no, I know they're not watching Lester because Wendy's here, but maybe they're going to watch it later on. So tell our viewers, David, what decision did you make before you went to Norway that your dear old dad told you not to do? And I bet you dear old mom could probably tell you.
Um,
It involved a girl. It involved a baby. Not yours.
no. That was after Norway.
That was after he came home.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm very sure. I still
I'm
remember every single date.
I'm glad you are, because I am not sure. Because I thought you got married because you were going to Norway,
No. No. So
which was still a terrible excuse regardless.
I was with Shelby, the little redhead from Phillipsburg, during Norway.
Okay, yeah, we won't go into details with that one, but I do remember that statement from Dustin.
Yeah.
So did you have fun in Norway? Aside of the Osprey incidents, which, we understand kind of buggered you out a little bit, but did you have a good experience, as like being able to travel overseas and to a different country and those kind of things?
When I was there, I felt more at home, per se. And the reason I say that is basically where our family came from. 7 generations ago, we were pretty close to Norway. And if you go even further back, you know, the Germanic tribes were around. I can't remember the countries, but they're close to the water. Um, and when I was in Norway, I felt more peaceful, more at home, and I honestly didn't want to leave. But I loved it there, and I would rather train there than Arizona.
And you did the Arizona tour a couple of 3 times. Now, looking back, of course, we always say, well, if I had to do this over again, I would do this or I would do that or this, that, or the other.
Mhm.
What would you change military wise? What would you do different if you know then what you know now?
I would have listened to everybody that made the statement of do not get married while you're in.
And how many Marines told you that?
Way too many to count.
And I do remember somebody said, but Dad, I'm the oldest. I have to be the first one married. And what was Dad's response to that? Do you remember?
And you'll be the first one divorced.
I said, yes, and you can be the first one divorced.
Yep.
Which is neither here nor there, but we look back on it now and we laugh, which is a good thing. If you can look on mistakes on the past and chuckle about them and laugh, and you hear some of the stories out here on the farm about some of the shenanigans, like what's the one that always starts? Sonny and I, that this one over here, has done, or JD's stories, or those kind of things, and we can look back on those and laugh, right? And that's what the good thing about those is, and we learn from mistakes. Do you think you would have stayed in? And maybe changed your job or changed your MOS?
I didn't get out necessarily because of her. Um, I think the whole reason why I decided to get out because of a reality check that I got during Marine combat training when I was in Camp Pendleton, I think. It was the schooling right after boot camp.
Yeah,
Anyways,
but MCT.
um, we were doing our basically our live fire drills, and it was at night. Now, me with blue eyes, I don't like nighttime at all. Um, Basically, with the night vision goggles that we had, it was illuminated with green color. Um, and you can't really see the person next to you until they're about 8 inches from the end of the barrel, like on either side of our M16. And I basically went through every single scenario at that moment of somebody, what we would call flagging someone. And not only, that scenario, but where we had to crawl under stuff. And I mean, they used speakers, they didn't use an actual, weapon or anything, but basically kind of going through our live fire scenario. That was also a reality check for me. And I was like,
Okay, so I will be flat honest that this is the first time I've heard you say this, which, is really kind of ironic coming from a kid that wanted to end ISIS all by himself and had a lot of high goals. And
Mhm.
then MCT scared you in retrospect. Maybe not fully scared, but it checked you out the door on what you could do, what you couldn't do.
Well, later on, I've also learned that somebody almost flagged Felber. And
And for those that
what?
don't know, tell them who Felber is.
So Felber basically, his last name is Felber. His first name is Trevor. Um, he before he joined, um, he lived up in McCook, and McCook's like 23 miles away. Um, we were at MCT together. I mean, we were in the same platoon during boot camp. We were bunkmates pretty much. And there was one moment in time where the bullet basically whizzed right by his ear. And it could have killed him if he was an inch over. And it kind of messed him up after that. And I heard that basically when he started dating Cortland. Uh,
And
so that,
Cortland is my daughter, our daughter, and David's sister. Just so people know who that is.
So it was
So you had a hardcore reality check.
with that incident, yes. I wouldn't, well, I wouldn't classify the two as incidents, but uh,
And that's the first I've heard of that too. So, and I think this is all good stuff that, you know, listeners like to listen to. They like to listen as I look in there and I see a picture of Leon and Tarina. Um, so they like to hear a little bit of history. They like to know who they're dealing with. They like to know who they're watching, other than a scraper operator that plays around in the dirt and kills innocent bull snakes. But they like to know they like to know some side stories to those things. And that's kind of an important deal. It's not all about just for me cleaning up the farm and for showing them a new piece of equipment, or we go and do some models. Is we show them different aspects to our life, whether it's mom fighting cancer, or mom hasn't really felt worth the hoot pretty much all week long. But they like to see the variety of different things. And when it hits a personal level, the people get interested, and it gives them something to think about, on where their life is and where they're going. I was waiting for that one, Wendy. So, um, and for those of you that watch this later on now, and I don't know it, um, she's referring to Lester, on the Longhorn Lester, I'm a Survivor Sanctuary, who is deathly afraid of snakes, green frogs, and mice. Now, green frogs, now toads, from what I understand, is okay, but green frogs, mice, and snakes, it don't matter if they're poisonous, not poisonous. The one he had the other day in the chicken feed room, it didn't look like a rattler, but it made me wonder if he was like vibrating his body to mimic a rattlesnake. But holy Moses, was he freaked out. You seen one on the other day. So that's kind of where the snake. I was for a long time. I don't typically mess with them if they're away from home. Now rattlers, no, they're gonna visit the life hereafter. But as far as like a bull snake goes, I typically will try to leave them alone unless they're on the farm. Those guys will get relocated one way or another. But so anyway, that's the kind of things they like to see. They like to see progress. They like to see this. They like to see that. They like to see new things, but they also like to hear stories on what goes on in people's lives, and those kind of things. And that's kind of why we invited you on tonight, because you do have a unique story. You're somebody that has served in the military, that has been married, has been divorced, and is now pursuing different adventures. And most recently, make sure I'm not jumping completely over the military thing. So you ended up in North Carolina when you were discharged. I skipped a beat and I wanted to go back. So when you were discharged, you were in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then you came back to Kansas.
Yep.
And had a kind of another reality check at the same time frame too, didn't you?
We'll go into that story. So we're going to back up to when I'm in North Carolina. For those of you who don't know, I was stationed at McCass Cherry Point. Now, McCass is Marine Corps Air Station, I believe. And it's basically an airport that has a nutsacks on there. And the unit that I was attached to was MWCS 28. Now, MWCS is Marine Wing Communication Squadron. And my MOS was a 0631, which is a network administrator, but to put it plainly, the Marine Corps thought that I would basically best be fit into being a computer geek. um, and I absolutely not. Now, I am smart enough to do what everybody else did, but I just basically lifted the gear that needed to be lifted, and um, I was basically the mule. Um, anyways, before I went on that tangent, um, when I got out, I was with um, I basically lived with my neighbor for a week and a half, and my neighbor was, well, my neighbor when I was married. And then actually, it was you, Mom. You suggested that I work for Grant Water. Yeah. So I texted him, and then we got to talking, and I finally went down to Garden City, I believe, and started working for him in just about 3 weeks. I was pretty much done with it. Um, for only one specific reason on one specific day. And I won't really go into that because that's irrelevant. Um, and what you were talking about is the reality check that I had was when I heard Grandpa say to you two, come get your son. He looks like crap. And that was the biggest reality check that not even, my schooling at MCT gave me. And that kind of put me on the path of going to Texas and one, getting my hair cut and making myself look somewhat presentable.
And then you ended up working at one of my locations. But the ironic thing about that whole scenario that you just explained was we just happened to be here when that transpired, when we got that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we would not have been here. We were in Texas. So, by some stroke of luck, you made the right call the right day.
Which was really weird.
That was.
I don't really believe in coincidences. I don't. Um, the fact that you guys were at the farm during that week and Grandpa making that call, I would say that I'm very, very grateful for it. Because I would probably still have been at Grandpa's until something happened.
It is,
Thanks you to
there for sure, I think, was probably an intervention there, 100%, something that's way beyond us because it just so happened. I believe your buddy that we talked about, what the Shelby gal, was part of that retrieving you from Colorado, wasn't it? Isn't Dustin the one that went down and got you?
Yeah, but it wasn't for Shelby.
No, 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 no. It was just the same guy.
Yeah.
So, he retrieved you from Colorado. And so, it's a mysterious thing on why things happen for one way or another and for what another reason. But at the end of the day, you knew you had to make a decision, you had to make a change. And we were willing to help you make that change. And I think we tried to do the right thing. I think we did the right thing because number one, it's like I told Karen when she used to call us about Levi and didn't know how mom could do it and how this, how that, how there, you're alive.
Mhm.
And that's the way we look at things is you're still with us, you're still alive, you're still kicking. And all of that leads to you're pursuing another goal. So maybe tell these people that are going to watch or are watching now or who pop in, pop out. I've seen a few people, my numbers go up, they go down. That's the way these things kind of go. What your next avenue has the potential to be.
So I basically talked to basically two important people that's within the city. I talked to I would say, new sheriff for people who don't know. Um, David something. Um, anyways, he came from somewhere south. There was a lot of speculation with certain incidences while he was at a different place, and he did clear that up. And then when the fair was going on, I basically started asking him questions, uh, specifically of how um, me being in law enforcement and my VA benefits slash disability would uh, correlate with each other. Whether it's having one and not the other, or if it doesn't even matter. Um, and then he basically referred me to talking with the chief of police for two reasons. One, he would have more information on that subject, and two, they already had all their spots filled. Um, so I talked to the chief of police, which is Brad Brad Burmaster, and he's been the chief of police since who knows. Um, and I started talking with him, and he's he told me that come by my office and we'll talk, and bring all the stuff that you need, and we'll talk and see. And then I got the job at the county.
Do you enjoy your job at the county? For the most part?
When things are going smoothly, yes.
That's with any job. When things are going smoothly, you always enjoy them.
Um, there's been a few times where I've had some temperamental outbursts. Um, but other than that, other than those childlike outlashes. Um, it's pretty fun, you know, basically playing in dirt like a little kid with expensive equipment.
That's what I always tell Uncle Corey. He's a human-sized Tonka toy figure playing with human-sized Tonka toys, with very expensive human-sized Tonka toys. That is for sure. Matter of fact, I haven't seen him come home yet. If he did, I haven't. He drove by and I haven't seen him, but trying to get caught up on some road grading. Um, do you have any concerns about becoming a cop?
I like doing full circles. Um, what I mean by that is you talk about one subject, then that leads to another and another, and then that particular subject correlates with the other subject that you talked about like 30 minutes ago. Um, with the whole reality check at MCT and how it basically scared me straight, or however you want to phrase that. Um, if I had the mentality and the oh,
I'm gonna have to go take a note.
basically the I can take on the world attitude that I do now. If I had all of that when I was at MCT, I would have still been in. And how that relates to uh, if there's any concerns about uh, maybe becoming a cop, yes, there's a lot of concerns.
Do you think maybe your experiences in the Marine Corps has maybe led you to this new adventure?
I think it has. Yeah. Um, everything that I've experienced since 2019 has basically led me up to this point of I don't have to hesitate like how I would hesitate 8 years ago. First, for example, um, one major concern that I do have is letting my anger get the best of me. That is one major concern that I do have, and that's why I haven't went, you know, went on full board with this whole
That's something you have
law
to check at the
enforcement
door no
career.
matter what job you're doing.
Well, yeah. Um, another thing is basically one concern that I do have is how messed up is my mind going to be with everything that could happen. Like,
It's only as messed up as you let it. That's the number one thing you got to remember is like, with example, quitting like cigarettes or quitting drinking or quitting eating so much or quitting, whatever. If you want to do it, you'll do it. It's all up here, It's it's the power of the mind is a truly and wonderful and amazing thing. If you want to do it, that's cool, Wendy. I did not know that. If you want to do it, you're going to do it. That's 100% fact. Matter of fact, we were talking a little bit about this at work. It's kind of a different aspect of it, but if I did a paper when I was in college a couple of 3 years ago, called The Electronic Babysitter, about how some parents use electronics to babysit their kids. And it goes in that same mindset and it goes in that same aspect of if you want to do it, you're going to do it. If you want to conquer the world and be the next president or whatever the case is, you're going to do it. On the flip side of that, if you want to just here, hello, Lou. Hope the chickens are all good. This is my son, David. He's my chicken guy. He has a lot of chickens. If you want to pass this thing on, well, they're speedy. You want to pass this thing on and, when not quote unquote, maybe necessarily be a part of your kids' life, but become more involved and deal with problems head on, then you're just going to pass the electronic device.
well, yeah.
It's just, it is what it is. And if you want to solve that issue, you're going to do it.
I know I can, pursue my dreams and goals, and specifically this dream. I've always had this idea of, well, my original idea before life kind of messed it up was be in the military for 20 years, have that retirement, have that pension basically, then go into law enforcement, do another 20 years, and then after that, have that retirement and pension, and then basically start uh, my own farm. That was the whole idea of those three major goals in my life. And now that it basically took a piece of paper at work to actually start talking to the chief of police. That's all it took. It was an ad in the paper.
Sometimes taking that first step's the biggest step, no matter what you're doing. Somebody asked me recently if I was ready to go back into safety. And I told him no. And he said, why not? And I said, because I cannot ask my own boss to put on a pair of safety glasses when he's running an angle grinder. I do not have that level of confidence yet. And if I can't do it now, I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to make that jump. Not to mention the fact I like working 4 days a week. Tomorrow I may have to go in the afternoon to do a little bit of my new adventure, land planing, with that big monstrosity thing that I shorted today.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, I'm just not ready. What happened in Texas really, I'm not completely over it yet. And that's another step that I have to take. I have to get past that point. I have to be able to say, we really should have a pair of glasses on, or we should have some hearing protection, or whatever the case is. And so even being 53, I still got some more steps to take myself. And again, it's up here. So if you want to do it, you're going to do it. That's all there is to it. You're going to make that jump. Not to mention there is a little bit of a family history as far as law enforcement too. So,
Oh yeah.
Oh, somebody's older than me.
Not as old as mom.
No. The only person as old as mom is her mom.
Yeah.
Older, not as old.
I know I can become a cop. It's just another issue that I might have is having that same mindset that I had in boot camp of basically what they trained me for. At boot camp, and it could have changed by now, just from the newer videos that I've seen. This is also another issue that I'm having troubles with, is that we were trained basically to eliminate the threat. And I still remember portions of my oath. Well, I overthink a lot of things. I'm still having that issue of trying to transfer my mind back to the civilian world, and it's taken me a long time. And going with this new adventure of becoming a law enforcement, that's something that I might hesitate. Not, if I'm in a certain scenario and it, might cost me my life, I'm not going to hesitate there. It's just normal things.
Your brother that she's referring to is a cop in a neighboring town. So people that other people know. My sister was a deputy sheriff at one time. But the one thing that has always stuck with me is when I was having my own issues back in the day, when my life was taking turns that I did not experience and really hadn't planned on it. A cop once told me, I'm going home to my family at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And that stuck with me. It 100% stuck with me. So, and that's something that you have to remember is whether you're married in the future or whether you're not married in the future or whether you're a Wallace County sheriff or you're not a Wallace County sheriff, whatever the case is, you're going home. And that's the number one thing you got to remember is you are going home.
Yeah. That doesn't necessarily have to only correlate with military or law enforcement. That's in general.
Oh, 100%. I mean, even in the safety world, I told my guys that all the time. Unfortunately, it didn't transpire that way on one day, but you're going home, and there's certain things that I will never forget. And that is one of those things, you know, Oh, Mama Dearest, she's always got to throw that one little last jab right in the gut. You know, you're going home at the end of the day, and whether it's in safety, law enforcement, military, uh, construction work, whatever it is, you know, Corey working out, you know, on the Greater Lake, he's gonna come home. And that's the number one thing we have to remember is we are gonna go home to each other each and every day. And no matter what we do, that's the goal. 100%.
Um, for those of you who don't know what Mom's talking about, is Mom and I made a promise to each other. Well, we made a couple promises, or edited the original promise into modern day. Um, our original promise was that one, she would fight through every single illness and every single surgery, and she'd keep on doing it until whenever, as long as I come home not in a body bag. That was our original promise. And 4 years later, we had to update that promise. She still kept her, that she would fight through everything and anything that comes at her as long as I give her grandbabies. And that's been our updated promise now.
You know, I think if there's one thing I can honestly say throughout this show is I've learned more in the last hour than I've learned in the last couple of years. Which is always a good thing. You always learn new things, and that's 100% true. My hour is almost up. That doesn't necessarily mean nothing, but we like to try to keep it to an hour, in case anybody else is going to come on. We will be, hopefully, I'm going to try to go live on Saturday because I have a presentation to do with what we've been working on the last couple of nights. You haven't been watching my live the last few nights, have you?
Nope. I have seen.
The cat's out of the bag. Lou, you better tell him what he's missing. Saturday at noon. In Oberlin.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. And we're going to try to go live to, I think, I don't know if it's going to work out. I'd like to. We'll see what happens. David is as you can see on his tag at Delta Whiskey 25. He does have his own channel. Go check him out. Come check us out. I want to say, and I said it earlier in the week, I had a goal at the end of this week. For whatever reason, I wanted to hit 100 subscribers. I did that today. And I'm so cool. I'm so cool that happened before the end of the week, because that's kind of, it doesn't mean nothing except for it's another step. So guys, like, share, and subscribe. Head out there, go see what he's doing, see what we're doing. He is the creator of these songs that we play before and after, and he does a tremendous job doing that. Hopefully he will be able to put a video together with the song that we start and what we close out with. It'd be kind of cool. Wendy, who Megan, she does a really, really good job of that. And I think David can too. And that's kind of what we want to try to do, is try to put those things together, to try to entice people to come see us, and other than just, sit here and stare at each other. it is a neat thing where, you can come on, you can tell us your story. We can come on and we can tell our listeners that story. Um, I don't know if we're going to get anything done this weekend because I've got doctor's appointments tomorrow and have to go to work in the afternoon. So I don't know if we'll get anything done on the farm this weekend at all. We had a truck problem and anyway, but we're still working. We still have a goal and we want to get the house in here. We're getting closer every time we start a new project. We've seen some new trees out today. JD had planted. Those look really, really neat. Tina had to go sit down. She wasn't feeling the best. Cancer sucks, guys. Just flat out, cancer sucks, and that's a tough thing to fight through. But it's like I told her, she's too mean. She's not going down without a fight, and that's the number one thing. So, Delta Whiskey, thank you for joining us, and do not log out until we get done with this song. Because now that my partner, the one that usually sits over here, is now in there, we have to close out the same way we do every weekend, which is this. So, guys, thank you for joining in. Thank you for coming to check us out. I probably will go live tomorrow night, try to finish out the car, and then I hopefully, like I said, we'll try to go out on Saturday too, because Kyle was a great guy. He was truly a community-minded individual and a great friend. He paid David one summer to put his sister's car together and never charged us for it. So it truly is an honor to go and and pay our respects to him. So, guys, thank you for joining in. Those that chime in tomorrow night, we'll see you tomorrow night, Wednesday, and of course Sunday at 7. We got Shop Talk. Again, thank you. Maybe. There we go.
Sun popped up over rusty gates. Coffee in a thermos, boots by the creek. Two good dogs and a dusty truck. Old pack grinning, you were pressing our luck. This is that Wolfpack farm life, paint our hair, get on our smile. Big sky Sunday, small town nights, laughing so loud you can hear us full mouth. We got trust, we got heart, we got time on our side. Running wild on the Wolfpack farm life. Kids on the tailgate kicking their feet. Grandma humming as she shells that sweet. Fresh picked corn and a feast or sad. Neighbor waves once, then he never goes back. This is that Wolfpack farm life in our head, down our smile. Big sky Sunday, small town night, laughing so loud you can hear us full mouth. We got trust, we got heart, we got time on our side. Running wild on the Wolfpack farm life. Oh, rain rolls in, we dance in the mud. Boots get heavy, hearts stay young. Storm rolls past, sun comes through. Every little day here feels brand new. This is that Wolfpack farm life in our hair, dirt on our smile, big sky Sunday, small town night, laughing so loud you can hear it 4 miles. We got roots, we got jokes, we got pride in our eyes. Running wild on the Wolfpack farm life.